Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore positive. We are positively into St. Patty's Day and, spring training and Ravens signing Kevin Zeitler and looking at free agency. But the Terps, Maryland, we're all behind you. So we got Connecticut and real March Madness. I know there was some grave concern. I talked to you and Jeff Moeller and other Terps folks last week that were very concerned about that. But the Terps, at least, dancing. I don't believe they can win the tournament. I'm not circling them, in the four brackets. But that being said, Turgeon's going to shut some people up for some of the time, I guess, for at least for a little while, for 1 week.
Yeah, I think we always try. We're deep enough now, 10 years into the Mark Turgeon era, where we try to make every season or every stretch, good or bad. You have a lot of people that try to make it a referendum on Mark Turgeon. They lose to Northwestern, they lose to Penn State. Oh, things are terrible. They beat Michigan State. Oh, things are great. They make the tournament. Things are great. And it's just, in reality, it's not really. We don't really need to look at it that way. I think you look at the full body of work, and as you mentioned, this isn't exactly a team that had very high expectations. I think you look at where they started in Big Ten play, understanding how great the Big Ten was this year when you kind of look at the very early seeds that you see that are represented with the conference. But I think you do give this team credit with the way that they were able to regroup after, a 4-9 start, I guess it was, in Big Ten play, something along those lines, and make the NCAA tournament. I think it was really nice to see them handle Michigan State, which removed any doubt as far as what their NCAA standing was going to be, albeit it was a nervous time on Sunday for the selection show when you aren't announced until the very last bracket, one of the last teams announced. But I think it was clear they were going to make it. I think they have a chance to beat U Conn, and an interesting second round matchup with Alabama, who had a furious comeback to win the SEC tournament. A team that's really interesting there. We'll see. To your point, I don't have expectations that this team's going to be playing deep into the bracket, and I don't think they're going to be necessarily playing in the second weekend. But I think that the opportunity is there at least, and I think with their style of play, with the way they play defense, I think they are a matchup problem for teams, and we saw that in the second half of Big Ten play. I think they have a chance against anyone. I don't think they have the consistency to reel off 5-6 straight wins that it takes to really make this a special tournament for them. But I think it'll be interesting, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, and if you check out my Facebook page, you saw a reference to it. It's kind of fun playing U Conn. You think about the 2002, that Elite Eight game between U Conn and Maryland, where Caron Butler almost willed the Huskies to win, and but Juan Dixon and Lonnie Baxter, and then Steve Blake with the late three wouldn't let the Terps lose. I mean, I was at Syracuse. I was attending Syracuse at that point in time, so I was in the very last row of the upstairs at the Carrier Dome watching that game. Easily the best basketball game I've ever watched in person. That was just an absolute classic. So not expecting Saturday's matchup to be anything resembling that, but it's fun to reminisce a little bit. Thinking about where the Terps were 19, 20 years ago, and that's where it kind of brings it full circle, wanting to see this program get back to a point where that feels like it's possible. And it hasn't really felt that way in a long time. So I don't expect this team, a number 10 seed, to break through and make any kind of run like that. But, hey, it's the NCAA tournament, and after what we were talking about and experiencing at this time last year with the NCAA tournament being canceled before the brackets even revealed, I'll take it. I'll gladly take it, and looking forward to what should be kind of an interesting tournament. I think the concept of playing all the games in the greater Indianapolis area, I think it's going to be interesting, and you've got some cool venues there. They're going to play NCAA tournament games at Hinkle Fieldhouse. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's something that – I still
screwed up by never going over there. You went on that trip, yeah? Or did you not?
Yeah, I did. I did
not go to Hinkle.
I can't remember. I couldn't tell you who Butler played that night. But
I hung out at the mall that night, I think, in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's got that.
I didn't go.
It's got that
Yeah,
old
what the hell
barn.
was I doing in Indianapolis that was better than going there? I don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't
I
know. I
really
mean,
must
having a
have
shrimp.
involved like San Elmo's and cocktail sauce or something.
I
I
was
don't know
gonna
what it was.
say must have been an overrated shrimp cocktail or something like that. But no, I mean so there's some. This is clearly a different tournament, and we're not going to have full capacity crowds, but there'll be some people in attendance. I think there's a real potential for this tournament to have some charm that you wouldn't normally get for that reason, and I just think there's the potential for a lot of volatility. While I wouldn't sit here and say that 20 different teams could win the national championship, I think you do look at, Michigan and Illinois, and obviously Gonzaga, uh, Baylor, and some of the two seeds. I think you could throw in, other two seeds you could throw in there. But
Where do you have
but I
Duke
think
going on the bracket this year? How far do you have them going?
hoping that their COVID situation isn't a big deal. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I mean that was
It is
of all
weird having a
years.
bracket without Duke to pick against. I mean, it's always the highlight of the
Kentucky,
tournament
yeah.
watching them lose. I mean, we don't even get that. We don't get that satisfaction. The plague is taking that away from us.
Well, I mean, they weren't going to make it anyway, most likely, unless they made a really, they maybe had a chance if they got to the ACC championship game. But yeah, it's strange. I mean, Kentucky, same thing with them. I mean, these blue blood programs that it's not a question of whether they make the tournament. It's are they a 1 seed, are they a 2 seed, or are they a 3 seed? That's kind of where those types of programs
By the
fall.
way, talk about blue blood programs. The Georgetown story was good. I mean, the
It
Patrick Ewing
was.
story found me over the weekend.
It was. I mean, as much as we're very reluctant to pay Georgetown Maryland Georgetown, as much as it's not even a rivalry because they don't play any semblance of a regular schedule or anything like that. But that was a cool story, and you like those stories though, especially in a year like this. I mean, how about look at what Loyola did? They fall short, but I mean, what a great story that was. I mean, a team that some of these teams that had losing records and they're making deep runs in their conference tournaments. I mean, that's fun, especially in a year like this where, I admitted to you, and I talked about this numerous times, where I struggled to get into college basketball this year because not having fans in that environment. It's one thing to talk about Major League Baseball or the NFL or piping in crowd noise, but when you're watching North Carolina Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium and it's empty and you have cardboard cutouts and the Cameron Crazies aren't there. I mean, that's, or even at Maryland with at, in College Park with the wall of students, you don't have that. You miss that. I mean, that really makes it feel a little more, I don't know, summer AAU like or something like that. But I think that aside, if you acknowledge, okay, that hasn't been the same, there have been some fun stories. And you just said it. I mean, Georgetown, a great story. I mean, they're a team that had a losing record going into the conference tournament, and it was like the old days. I mean, it's kind of neat. Patrick Ewing, being the head coach there,
Well, the
even if
Ewing
Dolan
Madison
and
Square Garden
MSG,
thing from a New York perspective. I mean, I was nationally
yeah,
syndicated when he left the Knicks, and sports radio stopped for 3 days when that happened. Like it was,
yeah,
and I don't think much about Patrick Ewing over the last 20 years, and for him to find himself back into the soup. And people speaking out on his behalf as to what kind of person, well, the way he's lived his life. I mean, I remember him swinging that baseball bat over Camden Yards in '93. It was a mess. But yeah, and I'm not a Georgetown guy at all. I wasn't a John Thompson guy, any of that stuff. I mean, I dislike Georgetown greatly as a Maryland fan and Sleepy Floyd and all that. And don't tell me there's no rivalry, because there is. I saw the Joe Smith game at the Capitol Center too. But I'm not. A Georgetown story finding me is usually Marty Conway, one of the professors.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I thought it was, with Dolan and what the Knicks franchise has become, I thought it was interesting to hear, Ewing's getting stopped at MSG by security guard. I mean, just so typical Knicks there, but a good story. And I will say, I mean, regardless of anyone's personal feelings about Georgetown, again, I'm not a Georgetown fan either. For the Hoyas to make that kind of run on the heels of John Thompson passing away, I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, they're not going to, I don't expect them to make a deep run in the tournament, but, as it goes with the 12 seed, I'll say this, if I'm Colorado playing them in the first round, I'm really nervous because Georgetown played really good basketball in the Big East tournament.
Well,
So,
when we talk about like UMBC and
but those are
shocking
the
the
stories we
world
want, right?
and where these schools come from, This is a time where people are at home. The games are on. If you have played hooky from college basketball for 3 months, this is a chance to maybe swill some beer. Maybe the weather's good enough to sit outside, whatever it is. This is sort of necessary, right? Like from a sports perspective, that something stops and we have something big that's not the NFL. I don't know that that's happened. I mean, the Masters didn't stop me last year. Nobody in Baltimore knew the Preakness was going on last year. I mean, to have something that feels monumental in a sports vernacular, the NCAA tournament actually happening is maybe some breath of fresh air. My wife has a vaccination. A lot of folks have that we're like getting back to something normal. This might feel normal this weekend, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it'll feel normal, but we're moving in that direction, right? I mean, a year ago at this time, we were talking about what could have been. Maryland, Big Ten champions, and ACC tournaments canceled. The NCAA tournaments canceled. We're baseball shutting down. The NBA shutting down. We're wondering if NFL free agency is going to be delayed. We're wondering if the draft's going to take place next month.
We're wondering if they're going to shut down spring training this time last year.
Yeah, right. I mean, they already had it at this point. I mean, this was a very where we are now, and that's not to say we're 100%, but we're certainly moving in the right direction. I think we can all see that. That's not to say that there aren't still concerns and still questions and still wondering when we'll get fully back, so to speak. But this is fun, and it's a different setup. I mean, they're playing the first four on Thursday. The tournament's not starting till Friday, so you got Friday, Saturday first round games. You have Sunday, Monday second round games. So it's different. So it'll feel a little bit different in that way, but it's an event. I was on a text chain with some of my best friends going back to high school, and the one guy sent out information on filling out a bracket, doing a little pool. We didn't even get to do that last year. We didn't even fill out a bracket because of what happened. So that's fun, and I think you're right. As much as sports have certainly, I mean, I've said it from the time that baseball started and the NBA and the NHL started up in their respective bubbles, that I would take something over nothing, which is what we had from mid-March until late June, early July. So this is better, way better than that. And this is one of those things that, as you mentioned, maybe there haven't been many sporting events that have really made people stop. I think the NFL did. I think the ratings spoke for themselves in that way, in the way that the NFL was very close to being normal, other than attendance, in-person attendance. But I think this is something that has a chance to kind of captivate us a little bit, maybe a little more than normal.
Well, it is a made-for-television event. That's now made for
television. It is. Yeah, I mean, it used to be. I mean, and that's what, from the moment that they expanded the TV contract, where, for years it was just CBS, right? It was the regional coverage. And I mean, someone like me who lives in Southern York County, you're tuning in to WJZ and WHP out of Harrisburg. You're hoping you get different games there. I mean, you're hoping that your favorite team doesn't have their game switched to another game. So now that you have CBS, TBS, TNT, True TV, remember, you got to figure out which channel it is. I mean, that's everyone's annual reminder.
I knew there'd be a True TV, insert here. There always is.
Yeah, that's
March.
No question. You watch some NCAA tournaments on True TV, and then a marathon of Practical Jokers. I mean, it's fun in that way. But every game is on TV. So years ago, and that's not to say that I don't love the sports bar experience of going and watching 5 different games at one time. Obviously, that's not a reality for people at this point. So it is a made-for-TV thing where you pull up a seat on your couch, you order some takeout from some of your favorite local places, and you watch a tournament. And it makes for a really fun Friday and Saturday. So I'm really looking forward to it. I really am. And that's speaking as someone who, as I've said to you on numerous occasions, I didn't follow this college basketball season in general as closely as I normally do, but that's picked up since the NFL, since the Super Bowl, since the NFL season came to an end. I found myself getting into it a little bit more. And again, to bring it back to the Terps, do I think they're going to make a deep run? No, I don't. I do think they're an interesting enough team, however, that if you're U Conn, you're looking at that defense, led by Daryl Morcell. You're saying, this is not the 10 seed we want to be playing. Now, does that equate to a Maryland win and a second round meeting date with Alabama? We'll see. But I think I think Maryland's going to be a tough out. Let's just put it that way. I think just their style, despite the fact that they don't have a natural point guard and they don't have a natural center, they play such good team defense, and they're long and athletic. That just, there aren't many teams that can claim that, to have that overall collection of players that can play that kind of defense. So, and, beyond that, it comes down to Daryl Morcell continuing to stay healthy with that shoulder that's kind of just hanging there. He's got that wrap on it. And, if Aaron Wiggins plays the way he's capable of playing to lead this team, then I think Maryland's a really interesting team. But again, the idea of realistically expecting them to stack 4, 5, 6 games in a row, it's not something I see. But then again, talking about Cinderellas, you never expect it. That's why they're a Cinderella. So I don't anticipate the Terps being that, but certainly looking forward to seeing them play on Saturday. That's for sure.
Better to play Alabama in basketball than in football. I would give them a better chance over the weekend if they draw Alabama. Luke Jones can be drawn at Baltimore. Luke on Twitter, on Instagram, certainly out on Facebook, getting you ready for Orioles season, getting you ready for this free agency period and the Ravens new signing of Kevin Zeitler. We sent that text out courtesy of our friends at Coons Ford. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, this is another Wise conversation. I got home over the week. My wife ran out to the Wise and brought home a big old cabbage, a big old thing of corned beef, some serious potatoes, and I don't know, we'll find a green hat somewhere around here. I got old Kelly Green Dundalk hat laying around. We'll get our St. Patrick's Day mojo going as we get ready for March Madness as well. Hey, and don't forget our friends at Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. I got the Rofo coffee in my Cole Roofing mug. Bill's going to join me this week, too. I'm sure we're going to talk a little baseball and some civic events as well. I am working on a little crab cake club. I'll be telling you more about that in the coming weeks as we get up on opening day. Of course, we're going to start that party at Fadley's on lunch, first week of April. We're going to go to Costas for dinner. We're going to talk about crab cakes, how they're made, and drink beer with them. Tough job. Somebody's got to do it. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570. Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking March Madness, NFL free agency, and Baltimore positive.